Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's not a surprise that you're seeing my face again. We are doing these back-to-back episodes today, and I'm very excited about it. Welcome to the Event Hustler Show. If you are joining us for the first time today, my name is Liz Caruso, CEO of TECHSYTALK and Liz King Events, and love hosting the show every week where we get to just talk to like amazing people in the industry. A lot of times they are people that I've had billions of conversations with. We've worked on events together. I want to kind of introduce them to you. But today is a special episode where I'm and we've done this several times, where we're just kind of getting to know someone in front of all of you. It's like the best way to meet people. And Chris Gasbarro.
You may regret that, Liz. You may regret that.
We're rolling with it. This is going to be
All right.
great. Chris, thank you so much for joining us from Ember. Welcome to the show.
This is great to be here live. I was nervous. I'm nervous.
No need to be nervous. This is like the most casual podcast, quote unquote, ever. But you and I think, must have met each other 5,000 times.
Or at least Connect and ILEA, MPI, something.
It's too small of an industry, but we really haven't had the chance to have a conversation. So I'm really excited to chat with you today, learn a little bit more about all the work that you guys have been doing and what is happening in the world,
No idea.
in your world, in the events world. Yeah. So why don't you just start by kind of sharing a little bit of your career history with everyone?
Yeah. Super, everyone. Go into the comments and chats. But so here's the short story, right? Forestry major. Took off the cap and gown, hopped on a tour bus as a guitar tech, tour manager, that guy on stage who goes, check, 1, 2, while you're waiting for your band to play. Did that for 220 nights a year on the road. Lots of bands who still owe me money. And then got off the road and went right to an AV staging company. Awesome, great firm where I spent 5 years in producing roles, sales and marketing, and did corporate theater. Lamest term ever, but it's pretty much behind the black drape. And then I learned one day that there's stuff other than box lunches for the team that's front of house. So I went to the experience design side to a great firm called Party by Design, where I spent several years and really got the experiential when that was just starting to be a fancy buzzword George P. Johnson coined. We were starting to do that inherently as the events industry was growing. I had amazing experience doing multi-million-dollar events. I had a fabrication design team. And then, much like many entrepreneurs, one day we wake up and we think we know it all. So let's go plant the flag. And just 13 years ago, I started this crazy thing called Ember with a couple business partners. And through that, along the parallel way, I've been very involved in the industry where I probably spent more time volunteering in the ILEAs and the MPIs than I was on my day-to-day job. So stints as president of MPI and ILEA New England chapters, and then on the iBods of several organizations that probably had some of my greatest growth and learning and honestly best connections. That's why our LinkedIn shared contacts, we know a lot of people together. And then Ember, been doing a lot of stuff for the last 13 years, producing mainly events around North America with occasional offshore events. And we have a little bit of a foot fetish, I like to say, in our client base with Saucony, Ultra, FootJoy, because Boston is a very textile driven town. So we're home to probably 40 footwear brands alone.
Awesome. So what kind of events have you been doing lately? I mean, obviously 13 years, things have evolved a lot. What are you doing? Like, what is taking up all your time?
Yeah, so right now we are hot into the transition back to live. So I was kind of sharing with you quickly. We've done 5 events in the last 3 weeks that have all been in person and have been everything from a 10-person leadership offsite. It was the first time the leadership team was together in 16 months, and they had a new CFO and a new COO that had never been in the same room together. That was great in Austin, Texas. And then first sales meeting with a multi-wave where they brought in small groups of people. That was really awesome. And then we still are doing the hybrid or virtual, a couple of those broadcasts where our North American group can come together, or at least US can, but we're still doing kind of a broadcast out to Europe, APAC, and Asia as well. So it's exciting. And then I've been probably doing more proposals and picking up phone calls of, oh, you want to get together in September? Okay, great. Where? What's the budget? Are you flexible in your room to space ratio?
Yeah. I mean, it's great to see the industry is definitely busy. I think everyone's kind of got a different mix of in-person versus virtual and hybrid somewhere in the middle. But everyone I talk to, or a lot of the people I talk to, are like, I am slammed. My inbox is full. I'm on phone calls all the time, writing proposals. It's a bright future.
The analogy I learned, so when I was on my first offsite 2 weeks ago with this leadership team, the head of product arrived, and we had a great house in Austin, the hills, Wine Hill Country. And he was sitting in the pool with his legs in, his pants rolled up. And for an hour, he's just sitting there. I went over, I'm like, hey, how you doing? He's like, this is the first time I've stopped in 16 months. And so while it's a unique, I don't think it's a unique feeling to us. So yeah, what's interesting is event people, we tend to thrive, and in the last minute loadout, everything coming together, it's kind of looking like an event. It's 4 p.m. I can't believe we're opening doors in 2 hours. So I think certainly I thrive in that. Other members of my team might like a little more time, definitely. but yeah, I've been waiting for it. So we knew the tide was coming in, so it's here.
Yeah.
And it's a moon tide.
What's it like to be on an in-person event? I have not attended one yet.
So the most fascinating thing, this is very unscientific. The number one thing I will say is I thought, well, two things to observe is one, everyone just wants to connect. So your breakouts are going to start 20 minutes later, your opening sessions, just get ready to let them be in the lobby, because people just want to be together. And that's awesome. Yeah. The second thing I was really impressed with was attention span, where I thought, and maybe it's just because we're out of Zoom fatigue and in the ballroom, we actually, for one of the events, we did a global stream out. So we were playing a pre-record video of all CEO leadership on the screens, and the audience, I thought a viewing party, I'm like, they're just going to have this little device right in their hands. And I would say it was a 99% for 55 minutes looking right at screens in a ballroom. And that really surprised me. I thought that was, I'm wrong a lot of the time. So I was really impressed by like people were interesting in, because it wasn't a 13-inch screen, it was bigger. So we had that power. So, but yeah, people want to connect. And then the other things is everyone's really excited. So from, the furniture company dropping off, the AV techs, everyone just had it was kind of like a little family reunion. And even people, there was just a great energy on site. So we've all been missing that. So I think connecting back from a behind scenes has been awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for those moments. And I am seeing the networking events coming back and stuff.
What's the first event you're going on? What do you got?
I don't know. We have one client who is considering doing hybrid for the fall. And really truthfully, only because they have a contract that's rescheduled from 2020 that they're kind of stuck in at this point. They don't want to do it. They want to be virtual. They're very nervous about having people back because, all these variants and everything. And then, I'm a super introvert. I'm like, networking events, why would I do that? But so I just don't have any plans. I mean, I will definitely go back to in-person, obviously. I think we'll have one or two events in the fall, but I don't know. I'm super risk intense. Like I don't like the idea of being responsible for like other people who might get sick and all these protocols that I have to learn about and make sure that you're like on top of. I'm definitely an overthinker in that way.
Yeah, I mean, talk about risk changed in a 2-year span, right? Where we used to have
dramatically,
significant, even just post-terrorism, what we had to worry about. So yeah, I mean, luckily I have some great producers who do that, and as well as the client conversations we're having about, have been really responsible in the last 8 weeks that we've talked about them, right? And making across our brand portfolio, we actually have several insurance companies, and their whole business is assessing underwriting risk, and it's been fascinating to learn and see how they look at things. Or actually, not to say they're more averse, but they understand risk better versus I think some of us are new, like trying to quantify it. And this is nothing we've quantified before, right?
Yeah. So do you prefer in person?
Yeah, I both. I loved the last 14 months to a certain degree. I missed, certain nuances of being on events and connection, but I found, at least for me, I could connect a fair amount. We had one client when I showed up for a broadcast a couple months ago. I flew into Denver, and we saw each other for the first time in 18 months. And he's like, wow, but we talk every day on Zoom. So it's like, it felt like I thought this would be more. But yeah, that's one of the things why I'm in this business is I love observing connections or being behind the scenes, and ta-da, it happened. And then being with production teams. But doing the broadcast was the same skills, just did differently, at least in my book. And I really enjoyed that opportunity. We do a lot of media at Ember, so certainly a lot of our business transferred over and kind of, I would say, really focusing on a different value proposition of how do you storytell, keep attention span to an audience has chat, and is it their daughter on the chat because you can't see them? I don't know. It was a great challenge. So I like both.
Yeah, I mean, even as an introvert and a total techie, there's definitely nothing, in my opinion, that it replaces the in-person connections. You know,
No.
the meeting, the hugging, the handshakes, all that stuff. That the content, I found some really cool ways to replace online, but
Yeah.
those connections are really hard. Not impossible, but it's just
No.
different. It is.
And the great thing was, if you think about tech, I was like, say, in my career, right, 2001 happened, tech was not there to allow virtual meetings.
Yeah.
2008, there was some stuff. This is the first time tech was there, and I'm really excited as the field starts to consolidate ideas, adoption. I think there's going to be the engagement thing, I think is really going to get figured out in the next
Oh,
2 years and have some robustness and analytics, but also be more authentic. I think, tech is just what we've seen in TikTok. I mean, that to me is,
yeah.
I don't pretend to know about it, but as I observe it, I'm like, that is a content creation engine. That is taking it away
Yeah.
from creative agencies. And I go, more power to it. It's fascinating.
Crazy, crazy. So tell me what your clients are saying about hybrid. Are they wanting to just kind of like stream whatever's out, whatever they're doing in person, or are they really wanting to, what do they want to do? Or they don't want to do
Yeah,
anything at all?
the elastic band has been, let's just get people together. It's been too long. With building content that can be used in multiple places and possibly have an evergreen life after. So whether it's, especially in organizations that are global, I can't get to EMEA right now. I can't fly into my partners in Asia. So thinking of a content strategy that works in both areas, but they're embracing right now, let's just get back together. And I think it's more the organizations who are looking to thrive and winning. We are blessed that we have some companies that have done really well as a result of COVID, which is running and golf. I mean, more rounds of play happen. So this has been very good for our golf-based clients, and running is experiencing, the third boom of running as people just got outside walking. So it's been really powerful. And a lot of my clients have said, like, hey, some meetings are going to go away, especially the small ones. I don't necessarily have to fly to Asia twice in a year. Maybe it's one. But ultimately, when you need meetings to make stuff happen, otherwise it's 8 Zoom calls to get something to be done in a 2-hour breakout salon. So I think they are making responsible choices and investments about to get the business done. This is a tool for me to do it. So yeah, I would say 85% of Ember's clients are, let's get together in some fashion.
Yeah, the more I talk to people, our clients and other planners, it seems like people are thinking more about a hybrid event strategy as compared to hybrid events. Not necessarily every event having these two audiences that have to interact with each other and whatever, but just some things are going to go virtual only because it is easier and it makes more sense and it saves on travel and it opens to a wider audience and yada, yada. And some things will be in person only. And sometimes you'll have those crossovers, but I think that's what we're seeing.
And why shouldn't an introvert be like, I don't know if I'm going to go to that meeting. I'll go to the big one, but I still want to be connected and get the same value. So I think we have one group that right now we have planning going for, and we've identified 5% will not, either nature of comfort, introversion, whatever's going on in their life. So we can't not make it an effective experience. So we're kind of creating models that aren't false in their engagement with it, but at the same time, they don't need to talk to each other live, or maybe it's just everyone calls in at the end of the day or something, or even the pre or post conference materials somehow connect to them because the audience doesn't always have to, now fall to the Monday through Wednesday pattern. Why can't the conference begin? Like one thing we do with a lot of clients after we're creating all these videos, right? Why put them in the ballroom to watch 2 days of videos versus they're all adults. Let's send them the videos the week before to watch on demand so they can get the fire hose. And then it's about not talking at people when we're together and embracing conversation. So that's kind of the hybrid we've been experiencing the most of, with, I would say, an occasional broadcast out for, key sessions, keynotes, etc.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking about those touch points and do they even have to happen? I think everyone like a year ago was obsessed with this idea of like hybrid, so crazy because the audiences have to connect and pretend like almost as if they're at the same event. But the truth is they don't want to necessarily like I wouldn't go to an in-person event and then need to be in the action the same way as everybody else. Like you're choosing to be on a virtual side for certain reasons. And so I've been hearing more and more event professionals talking about that. Like, do we even have to connect these two audiences? Sometimes, yeah. And sometimes maybe not.
And not everyone's the same. Some people need to process, and the design of, I would say, 90% of events is a fire hose over 3 days, right? Like
Yeah.
Arrive on plane, into the big ballroom with lights, and then right to drinking at the lobby bar, out to eat with more drinks. Boom, wake up early, do yoga. And it's like, and then content and breakouts, windowless ballrooms. Like, versus why can't you send out PDFs, abstracts, watch videos on
Yeah.
events that let those processors, depending on the skill or the position, I think we can have our cake and eat it too in a certain degree. I always will bet on at some point, Liz, you need to go to something like we'll
Yes,
want you there because, in our firm, we just had an offsite this past week and it was just so great to get everyone in a room together talking about stuff because we're missing things. And so inherently a lot of meetings we do are kind of business focused or customer focused. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that replaces that in person for sure. So tell me about just like you and kind of the future. What are you most excited about and what is most scary to you as you look ahead? And it could be personal or professional.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think I'm excited. The one thing I'm excited about is this gives us all a little permission to be a little different. So I think it's tough when, as a 20-year planner, right? Like I kind of have a predictable formula.
Yeah.
And I think working with some of my clients, it was easy just to open up the document and think about the agenda. But now there's a real pause to think about, we just got a slate, right? Behaviors have changed in the world. We have to think about audiences differently. I think we can approach events in a genuine way versus we used to say like zag instead of zig, or let's push and do something creative. And then most people go back to the same meeting.
Yeah.
So I think I'm excited industry wise that there might be some shifts in meetings to be by nature of a lot of those small meetings that weren't adding value are gone. And I'm glad for that. And they should be remote or on Zoom or be done differently. And then allow those meetings to maybe have a different shape and form. The second thing I'm really excited for is we go back to this hybrid remote work. Well, I think there's going to be lots of small gatherings. Like, so as a marketing team isn't seeing each other and the Tuesday, Thursday thing doesn't work because you got to still get your work done. I think there might be some interesting small meetings that maybe haven't existed. That is this new world of a 40% of the workforce is going to work remote more than 3 days of the work week. And I think leaders are going to struggle. Like, how do I manage remotely? And I got to get people in a room, and HR is going to want to get their fingerprints on all this. So I think there might be emerging a new small meeting format, which is great. And the number one phone call I've been getting this past week is we're making everyone going back to the office. So we need to have a party to give the illusion that they like coming back to the office, which is fun. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was an event. That was great. Awesome. Let's give them some cake.
Yeah.
And then tech, like as we were talking, like I think there's, I'm probably not as tech savvy, definitely as you, Liz. But I think there's some interesting value propositions. And I think the tech world lit up to solve some challenges that existed in our industry and hospitality and travel. And there's some really smart people. And then put the Silicon Valley people and the private equity money behind it. I think you're going to see some really robust. We're in I like to say we've been in concept cars. And so in the next year or two, I think some interesting things that come out that I'm probably going to go, well, that's amazing. Well, we got to figure that out. Or that meeting shouldn't be in person anymore. Or how do we make it better? So I think tech's always something, being in the Boston area, we kind of navigate or have that aura about it. So I think that's exciting. What are you most excited about?
Well, actually, so what you had said earlier about the elastic band, right? Like everything's virtual now. Everyone wants to come back and be in person. I'm most excited about that middle where it starts to just kind of like relax out and you find all these, because to your point, virtual, like what we've been doing for the last 18 months really hasn't been great. It's been a Band-Aid. It replaces what had to not happen at all. Yeah. So instead of it not
ready, fire, aim,
it happens. Yeah. But behavior has changed so much and the demand is finally on these companies to innovate, to change, to make things happen. And there really wasn't that much interest in, great virtual events prior to COVID, which is crazy because the technology has been there, or at least available. And now it's really getting, to your point, pushed to like next level. And all these mergers and acquisitions are just so interesting in terms of how they're going to come together and make tools that are really meaningful. When that happens, to your point, I think we are going to see that kind of shift where you're starting to say, I thought this needed to be in person, but I didn't know this was going to be available. And now that this is available, we can do some really cool things. I think hybrid is definitely the future.
Well, to your point, the elastic, the one thing I'm rooting for that I think was a great byproduct of going virtual was narrowing the content, right? You couldn't have an 8-hour meeting, right?
Yeah.
So by nature of the 60-minute breakout went to 8 to 14 minutes with Q&A. I'm excited. I hope that stays, or there's not this slot of agenda time that we just bring it back to, like after lunch we have breakouts versus, oh my gosh, we need, in this, the immediate thing, it's just gonna be like, we're gonna plan tons of relationship time meetings. So I hope maybe we come back to that kind of call the Hawaii incentive trip. Like, all right, everyone's already up. Let's learn from 7 to 1. And then 1 p.m., we're in this beautiful place. Let's just be there and not be in a ballroom. So I hope maybe we 18 months land there, and it's a fabulous place, and we're in Hawaii, Liz.
Yeah, I would love to be in Hawaii. I won't complain about that. I think it's that is so important, though, really thinking about the format of things. People want to be together, to your point. So why are we forcing them into a ballroom at all? How do we, like our TECHSYTALK Global Conference that's coming up, we are doing it virtually, but the idea is primarily attendee-led content. Like, we're going to put people in a room. What do you want to talk about? What's your biggest challenge today? Let's solve it. And really do a lot of that. And I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of, even in person, is that people don't want to sit in a ballroom and watch something that they could hear recorded audio only on their way in, or to your point, later at some point on the weekend when they have some downtime. Really thinking about how do we use the in-person to make those connections. That's the piece that's so important. Not that content is not important, but that's the piece you cannot replace in any other format, in any other way the same. So I'm excited to see how that turns out.
That's awesome. I agree.
So, but you didn't say, what are you most scared about?
I'm always complacency, right? Like, so whether it's the return of, what I'm scared about? I hope our industry really maybe aligns. I'm afraid our industry is just going to, this is my view, everyone. I'm sorry if anyone from MPI, PCMA, I think we're fractured. So I feel like in the last several years, our community connection has fragmented, and I'm afraid we're not going to come together. We had a huge, in 2008, huge opportunity to find the values of meetings from a financial lens and everything. And I thought there was a good movement. So I'm afraid our industry is just going to continue to, where there was I think a little bit of rallying for a brief moment. I would have liked more. So out of this, I just, as I think about legacy to my team, and I'm afraid the industry might get even more fractured by nature, because that's one thing with technology, right? Like, it's going to be easier to work remote. It's going to be easier to buy from a marketplace that looks and feels like Craigslist or other models out there versus building relationships. So I'm a relationship guy. I come from going to conferences. I probably haven't been as good a job the last few years. I had a really good excuse not to travel the last 18 months. But coming out of this, I've been reflecting on, I hope as an industry we can maybe define ourselves a little bit better, because I think the risk is if we don't, everyone else is going to come in, right? It's kind of like we work a lot in insurance, right? And insurance is kind of, not to say it hasn't changed a lot in 100 and 250 years since Ben Franklin, but as people look at the volume of money there is InsurTech coming out and Silicon Valley of like, how do I disrupt? And I'm afraid someone might come and disrupt, and that might be tech driven. And while I'm optimistic of the benefits, I'm also concerned that it could be a homogeneous product. So I think by nature of an experiential stuff, that there could be some risk in consolidation or us not coming together as an industry, in short. So PCMA, MPI, ALIA, CIC, get everyone together for an awesome meeting and commit some goals and start a PAC and raise a lot of money to get some influence in Washington. That makes the global business travel people go, where'd those people come from? We should gang up with them. And then we put all our billions together and get a voice.
I think you should be the head of this movement. No, why not?
No, Kevin White should be head, or someone else. There's Dahlia in charge. It's not that I'm passionate about it. I'm a behind the scenes guy. I think there are some really sharp people, even in our current leadership. And I would actually also offer, as we've seen, and I don't know, Liz, I've known some people have taken early retirements. That is a loss of knowledge for our industry. So I'd like to see some of those people maybe build the legacy, because I think they have such wisdom. And that's the other gap, is that, and no offense if any admins are on here, but we've always kind of targeted, the admin who does the board meeting, versus I think a lot of people, as we all saw in the first 3 months, is, we can figure out the Zoom thing. And then they failed. And then they called us agencies and professionals and went, we need professionals to help us. I think an initial reaction is as we get back, especially as a lot of companies took 20% travel off their P&Ls and budgets and are like, I don't want to put that back in. I can use that differently.
Yeah.
Let's have an admin or a small group or give it to marketing, since marketing already brought video in-house and content in-house, have them run the meeting. And there might be a non-expertise opportunity, which I kind of support and whatnot, but I think there might be a loss coming with all the knowledge that's going out there. And so I'd love to give some of those people a great opportunity to give back. And so they should be the leaders. Michael Burke, Hanover Insurance, he's running FICP, or he did. Take the next step.
We have lots of people to tag so they can make sure they're
watching. Right. Who do you think would be great at that?
I'm going to say anti-association. I'm not anti-association, but I have never been a part of any association ever.
Why?
Never joined. Part of it is I don't love the business model. Part of it is that as a planner, I feel like every time I go, I'm just being sold to the whole time. And the balance of planners and suppliers is not really that good. And then the other thing is, I think I am just an anti-establishment. It's not associations. It's just any large organization. I just had this big talk with my sister, who's education. Her and her husband are both educators. And I was like, the public school system is all ruined. It's anything that slows down innovation. I can't take it. So, so I know some amazing people in the industry who have a ton of knowledge, and I would love to see them spread it and have a kind of more like a higher up role that really gets that information disseminated widely. But from a structure standpoint, I couldn't tell you who's like the best to lead it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we share it. It's an old legacy model. I agree with you. That's not set up. It was great for 1980, but you can get community differently.
Yeah, technology has changed dramatically the community and the content, which are the two biggest reasons why I think people join associations. And so I hope that they evolve, though. I think this is such a great opportunity to say, whoa, what could we be doing differently?
And I may not have, did any group, and please put in the chat, did anyone go down? Like, I'm surprised some consolidation didn't happen in the last 17 months with one of the big boys. I don't know if they
closed, but I think member numbers have been lower.
Yeah. So maybe it's coming.
I think it is if they don't evolve, but personal opinion.
C-Vent's going to buy them all. Go C-Vent, go buy them all.
Or oh my God, Hoppen's buying everybody right now.
Oh, are they? Okay. No.
Yeah. So anyway, we only have a few minutes left. Yeah. How would you like people to connect with you, to learn more about you, to continue these conversations? It's been my great opportunity to just kind of pick your brain and chat. But
yeah, so there's the tag of social media. I always say I'm one person. There's a dozen other Ember people that work here that are probably smarter than me. My thing is, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm always happy to have a conversation. If you're like, hey, live more, like think of Ember like this. When you have a meeting and you're like, this isn't cutting it. Because there's a lot of really good meetings out there. I always tell clients or prospects, like, hey, call me when you want to change the meeting or have a different outcome as a result. So otherwise, I'm wasting your time and you're wasting mine. And then I'm a big thing in sharing. And so email or chris@emberbrandfire.com or social tag as you see right there. So, and I think my marketing person does a great job posting a lot of our stuff, and we're very transparent in what we do. And we steal from many other peers in the industry. So we are the most recycle friendly industry.
We are.
We steal ideas all day long amongst each other.
Well, thank you so much for this great chat. It was just great getting to know you a little bit and talking about the industry. It's always good to hear fresh perspectives. We'll be sharing this on our blog and on our podcast and then any other place, social, all that kind of stuff. So we'll be sure to tag you guys. And now we have to tag all these people that you've commissioned with this new initiative.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you, Liz. This is great getting to know you.
Yes, likewise. All right, everyone. We will be back with another episode of the Event Hustlers later today, and actually in just about 2 minutes. And
on the sandwich, on the meat and the sandwich. I got you.
Yeah. And if you're catching the recap of this, please make sure you go and connect with Chris and his team, and we will chat with you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone.